right, well, thank you all so much for coming tonight and braving the winter weather that surprised me. Definitely colder on the way over here than I was expecting. So I want to introduce myself. Those of you who have not met, I'm Ken Sherman. I'm the Parks and Rec Director for the City of Grand Junction. And we're really excited to continue the conversation with the community that we've been having for, about 40 years related to a recreation center. Yes, I can, yes. So Ken Sherman, I'm the Parks and Rec Director with the City of Grand Junction. I want to thank you for coming tonight and continue this conversation that we've been having as a community for quite some time on recreation center and making it a reality for the community. So we do have a slide presentation that we're going to run through. So Marta, if you want to go to the first slide. This is kind of our agenda. And so we're going to be running through kind of two parts of tonight. I'm going to be doing the first part where we're talking about just general rec center updates. We last met in terms of a public meeting in April of 2024 when we finished the design on the rec center. And since then, we haven't had any public meetings. Of course, we've had PRAB meetings. We've had a lot of engagement through our newsletter and social media and the like. But we just really felt it was important to continue the conversation since the community has been so important in this effort ever since it started. So I'm going to give an update on the Recreation Center. Then we're going to pass it over to our friends with GFM Center Table, who are leading our branding and brand identity process for the Recreation Center to help us make sure the rec center is reflective as much as possible of our community. So a couple ground rules as we get started. We are going to be doing kind of a presentation piece and then kind of a breakout piece where I'll go through the rec center update, and then Jim with GFM Center Table, who's our principal. Everybody say hi, Jim.
Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to meet you.
And we also have Myrna, who is the project manager with GFM Center Table as well. So I'll do my part of the presentation on update on the rec center, and then I'll pass it over to them to do a overview of their efforts. And then we're going to break into smaller groups to go back to the boards that we've set up behind and really gather a lot of input from you all on this process, as well as answer questions that you might have. I know that there's a lot of specific questions, specifically now that we're under construction and the like, and things are so visible from Patterson. So that's how we're planning to run the evening, the run of show. So Mara, the next slide. So project update. So as I mentioned, the Community Rec Center process has really been fueled by the community all along, going back to the first effort to get a recreation center in 1979, to the Parks Master Plan in 2001, and then there's been a whole host of public planning process that has really fueled and guided this effort. And I think that has been absolutely critical for bringing it to fruition and bringing it to a reality and now being under construction. So we really felt it was very important to continue that connection. Again, the last time that we met and had public meetings was in April of last year, so about a year ago. So what we're doing now is very much in line with what we've been doing all along, and I think it's been absolutely key to the success of the effort. So the latest on the Recreation Center. So in 2023, voters thankfully approved that ballot initiative in April, and that was all based on the 2022 CRC plan, where we had tons of focus groups and community meetings and all sorts of efforts to really understand what the community wanted to see in the recreation center. And that plan specified an 83,000 square foot recreation center. It included things like 3 pools, 2 multipurpose rooms, 2 community rooms, and as a part of that plan, we had planned all along to maximize the success. If voters approved and made the investment to be able to build the recreation center, in the 2022 plan, we promised to go after partnerships and grants to be able to maximize the success of the project. We've got a lot of questions in the 2022 CRC planning process about what brings a recreation center into a community, what is critical for making it happen. And I think that there sometimes can be some misinformation or misunderstanding that rec centers just come from donations or from grants. And it was a big part of our education to emphasize that recreation centers really are very commonly, or most commonly, certainly in Colorado, built with small sales tax increases, and that was the funding mechanism that the community preferred, and that's what went on the ballots. And so, but with that, there are grants available to support projects like this. And so we promised in 2022 to aggressively pursue grants and fundraising. You can jump back, Mara. So we did get a pretty sizable grant from the Department of Local Affairs that happened actually in partnership. Andrea Creeves, the co-chair of the Citizen Campaign, and I went and presented to the DOLA board, and we were able to earn that grant, and we're very grateful for that major funding that allowed us to expand the facility. And we also forged this partnership with Intermountain Health. And so that had to do with coming up with an agency to operate a therapy space within the recreation center, as well as providing some naming of the pools. So Intermountain Health came to the table and became a partner and contributed a significant sum to be able to help us expand the facility. So we went from 83,000 square feet to 108,000 square feet, which is currently what's under construction. And the major adds in terms of the building expansion were that we were able to add a third fitness room, group fitness room. So we are going to be having group fitness actually provided as part of your membership, as part of daily drop-in. So people are going to be able to use their rec pass, and they'll be able to go to some group fitness class in those group fitness areas. So that's going to be, I think, very popular. So it's very exciting that we got a third group fitness room added to the plan. We also were able to add in 2 additional pools. So the 2022 CRC plan had a 4-lane lap pool envisioned, and we were able to expand that to a 6-lane lap pool. So we have a larger lap pool, and then we have 2 additional bodies of water. We have what we're calling a plunge pool, which is just below the water slides there. And that's going to be complemented by a climbing wall and some cliff jumps that come right next to the side of the pool. So that'll be a popular, exciting new amenity that wasn't in the original plan, but we've been able to fund through the grants and partnerships that we secured post-vote. We also are able to build this kiddie pool, which is a little bit south, planned south of the Lazy River area. And that will have its own filtration, its own pool boiler to keep that body of water safe and comfortable, and it also will allow us to, any instances that happen in that area, to close off the pool. And then the other 4 pools will still be able to be in operation while we clean up any incident that might happen in that kiddie pool. Other things that you may remember from the final design presentation, the wave ball, we talked about that in April of last year, and at that time we were uncertain about the funding of the wave ball area, which is right to the right of the kiddie pool. And that wave ball, we weren't sure we were going to have funds to do it. Thankfully, we're able to include that in the budget. And so what that is going to be is that's going to be this ball that oscillates up and down, that goes up and down like boom, boom, and it creates these waves. So it'll be a really fun place for kids to play and of any age. So those are big enhancements that we were able to do in the swimming pools, is add those 2 additional pools. We also were able to add in a third multi-purpose room, patio and outdoor space. So again, envision 2 multi-purpose rooms in the CRC plan 2022. And with the additional support, we've been able to grow the budget and grow the building to add in that third multi-purpose room that actually has a stage. And when we do construction tours, you'll actually see the stage that's already in place. And that will allow a place for lots of different events for people. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the barn is used a lot. One of the things that just at the top of my mind that we use it for is we have a Little Learners Child Care with the city, and we have our graduations here with our preschoolers who are going into kindergarten, walking across the stage. So stuff like that will be available with that stage within that third multi-purpose room. Then the other last big addition to the square footage was the Intermountain Health St. Mary's therapy space. And so that is going to be located adjacent to the admin space, which is the lighter pink. The Intermountain Health space is the darker purple. And so that's going to be their dedicated space where folks will get their therapy. They'll have appointments with physical therapists that will come in to that space. They'll actually have treadmills and different equipment. And then as patients progress, they'll start to graduate and move them out of that space and start to use the whole rec center in terms of the patients on their journey towards recovery. They'll be able to do that in the walking track and the fitness space, which is upstairs. And maybe jump to the next slide to show the fitness space and the walk jog trap that'll be upstairs. So the therapists will be up there with their patients. And then the whole idea and the whole goal is for those folks, a lot of them are recovering from knee surgery, hip surgery, major health events. And the whole idea is that they will then hopefully improve their healthy lifestyle and stay active and hopefully become a member of the recreation center once they're released from therapy. So that's a really exciting partnership that we are very glad is secured. So next slide, Mara, please. We feel like it's real important to ensure financial accountability. I think one of the huge reasons, one of the things we really emphasized in the 2022 CRC plan was that we needed to be fiscally responsible. We needed to make sure that the voters who tend to be more fiscally conservative in our community had confidence that we were going to be able to build this project on budget. We've been able to have success with that. So right now we have our what's called a guaranteed maximum price secured. So this was secured around November of last year. So FCI is our construction manager or general contractor. And so they have handled the bidding process for us because that is their focus as the construction manager. And they have now given us, the city, a guaranteed maximum price whereby they promised to deliver the facility on budget so that we don't exceed the total new project cost at $82.1 million, which again factors in the grants and the partnerships and that additional funding we're able to secure to grow the building. The thing on the right is basically all the trades. There's 35 different trades, so FCI is actually one company overseeing 35 sub-consultants that are building all the different puzzles in the rec center equation, like masonry, casework, roofing, stucco, all these different specialties. FCI has facilitated the bidding process. We put a lot of pressure on FCI to perform and have as many bids as we possibly could get. We averaged about 4 bids per trade, which is really good to ensure competitive bidding environment. It's also very exciting too that a large majority actually of the selective subs, 25 of 35 are local to Grand Junction. There's no preference in terms of a local firm, but that's always something we really want to see is our local firms performing well and getting these big contracts, because that certainly causes recirculation of dollars in our economy. That's another huge benefit of what's come out of the bidding process. Also, 6 of the 7 largest subcontracts are with local GJ firms. So it's very exciting that we have that because it will deliver the project on budget. And we also have contingency too. One other thing I forgot to mention, previous slide talked about the second slide flume. Last time we talked to City Council about our GMP, or guaranteed maximum price, in November. We were uncertain about being able to include the second slide flume, and construction is going well enough that we have contingency and we've passed a lot of the risk in construction, and so they're starting to allow us to use contingency to plug in what we call add alternates. And so the second slide was going to be an add alternate, but now we're able to include that because FCI is starting to say, hey, we're getting far along in the project, we're past the foundations, a lot of the major risk that eats up contingency on projects has been mitigated and passed, and so we're able to start plugging in some add alternates. So that's a really exciting place to be at in the project. With the fees and hours, so this is also something that we've, of course, been talking a lot about in each step in the rec center process. So 2022 CRC plan had the hours specified, it had fees specified, with the caveat that we would be updating the fees as we move closer to opening. And so that's really important because your hours of operation and your fees affect your budget. So fees affect how much revenue you're bringing in from passes that then we call it cost recovery. We then put back in to offset the costs in operating the facility. We are going from probably 250 part-time staff to maybe like 350 part-time staff citywide. So that's organization-wide in all the different areas that the Parks and Rec Department oversees. So it's going to be about 100 additional staff members, 11 of which are full-time and the rest are going to be part-time. So a lot more lifeguards than we've ever seen before as a community, a lot of front desk staff, a lot of climbing wall staff, a lot of custodial staff to keep this place in really great shape. And so the fees are really important to make sure that we're offsetting those costs and reducing the burden on the taxpayer. So we did an update already to the fees last year in the final design process, and we're doing one final one right now to help inform our 2026 budgeting process. So our 2026 budget is going to have operational fees and operational cost figured into our 2026 budget. So we're updating it one last time. So the fees that we have are not quite yet final. We're looking mainly at market analysis and what Fruita Rec Center looks like, Durango, Montrose. Those are kind of three models that we're using because we want to be on par with those. So that's going to inform the final fees. And then the hours are more or less set, but we might modify them slightly. So we're just doing that one last time, and then we'll put out the final fees. That's another reason, by the way, why we're doing these meetings tonight with the whole branding effort, brand identity that Jim and Mara are going to be talking about, is that we're going to take the final fees and final hours and roll that into the materials that we're going to be using to market and promote the recreation center. That's really where our focus has shifted, including not only focusing on the construction, but also focusing on the operation that's going to be coming. So we'll be hiring staff. We're in process of hiring our CRC manager right now, hiring some coordinators later this year that basically are going to be responsible for operating this facility. So we're gearing up for all that. So a lot happening behind the scenes. Another really exciting update to share with the community, again, this was in the 2022 CRC plan that was the basis for the vote in April of 2023, is that we promised again to pursue grants. The biggest possibility related to outdoor facilities is GOCO. So GOCO, Great Outdoors Colorado, it's funded by lottery dollars. By state statute, you're required to use those dollars on outdoor facilities. And so GOCO is not going to support the indoor rec center like DOLA will. DOLA has supported a lot of rec centers throughout the state, but when it comes to outdoor facilities, GOCO does not would only support outdoor facilities. So we built our plan for pursuing an initial phase of outdoor facility development around a GOCO grant. Excuse me. We also approached foundations to help us fund outdoor facilities. Outdoor facilities phase was never part of the CRC budget in the 2022 plan. We always said this is going to be grant contingent and depend on our success in being able to bring in grants. And so Daniels Fund was the first funder that we approached last year, and they thankfully awarded $500,000 in March of 2024. So they were the first funder in for the outdoor facilities phase. We also already had money from the Berkey Pavilion from the sale of the Berkey land that happened that the voters approved in April 2019. So we had those dollars, and then the Daniels Fund grant, and then we went after a Betcher grant, a Gates Family Foundation grant, and then finally a GOCO grant, and we were able to receive all of those grants. And so that's now fully funded the first phase of outdoor facility development. And so that's where we're at now with finishing the design on that. So we're going to finish the design on the Berkey Pavilion, we'll finish the design on the artificial turf field, and the areas around those new improvements will also going to be added in some overflow parking where the current construction trailer sits. So we're very excited to be able to move forward on this outdoor facilities phase concurrent with the rec center that will be done probably even a little ahead of the recreation center itself. So a few renderings, updated renderings of the facility. These are our rendering of the 5 swimming pools. We are hopefully Sarah caught you to sign up for construction tours. So that's something that we're going to be offering this summer. So we're going to have our summer activity guide that's going to be distributed in the next couple of weeks. And then we're going to start those tours in May. And when you go out on site, it really is very exciting and it really does make it real. And you'll see things like the Mirtha pool, which is the therapy pool right here. So Mirtha is a type of pool. So we're not doing a concrete pool like at Lincoln. It's a newer technology where it's this system that you'll see what it looks like when you go on the construction tours. It's really, really cool. It's like really nice, really high quality. So you can actually see the Mirtha pool for the therapy pool when you go on the construction tour. They've also done, or they're going to be doing the lap pool, which is there on the left side of the image, the plunge pool where the climbing wall is, and then you can see just a little bit of the leisure pool. And I imagine by May, a lot of those forms will be intact and be very visible on the tours. Next is a rendering of the community corridor. So as you walk in the facility, you come to the front desk, you look down the community corridor, you see the family game area to your left, you'll see all the way to the climbing wall. And then these are the upstairs, the stairs accessing the upstairs fitness area and walking track. Here's a rendering of the senior lounge. So you walk in the facility, you go to the right, and that's how you access the community wing. So that's where the senior lounge is going to be. That's where Intermountain Health's area will be. That's where the 3 community rooms will be. So that'll be actually before control, so you don't have to have a membership to be able to access those areas. Here's a couple of latest and greatest photos from Sarah Kennedy, our communications specialist, who took these photos just a few days ago. So upper left is the front elevation of the facility, and you can really see how the front entry will look. Group exercise rooms are also becoming more and more defined. Recreation Way on the bottom. So Matchett Parkway is the name of the road as you access off of Patterson, and then Recreation Way splits. And you go to the left to go to Hawthorne to connect to 28 1/4 Road, and future build out of Matchett has that Recreation Way coming up to develop more of Matchett build out for the park. Here is a view of the swimming pools. There's the Mirtha pool of the therapy pool that I was describing kind of in the middle of the photo. In the foreground is the 6-lane lap pool. Climbing wall is very visible, 33 feet tall climbing wall, very prominent, and our 3-court gymnasium as well. So that's my piece of it with the rec center update. I'm going to pass it over to Mara and Jim to go through brand identity. We would ask you to hold questions, comment, input until after their presentation, and then we'll have a lot of discussion over by the boards.
Yeah.
So with that, Jim and Mara.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you all for showing up tonight. My name is Jim, and this is my colleague Maura. As Ken mentioned, we work with an agency called GFM Center Table. We partner with a lot of municipalities, state organizations, special districts throughout the state of Colorado. And we do a lot of work when it comes to communications and making sure that the governments are communicating what they're doing effectively to the communities they serve, and that type of thing. And that includes things like graphic design, video production, newsletter creation, social media, all of those things from a communication standpoint. And so we were tasked with community engagement around the look and feel of the community recreation center, and gathering that input from you. Best practices for these types of facilities, and we know it drives a revenue from a revenue standpoint, is making sure that the communications that go out, the interaction with the public is consistent and has cohesion. I know we've talked with Ken about a rec center in Grapevine, Texas, that does a really good job with this portion of their marketing and communications, and they have somewhere upwards of 3,000 people attending every day, and it really helps communicate with the public and get them in the doors so that revenue is and those goals are being accomplished. Next slide. For our standpoint and our project process and timeline, we talk about brands. I don't want to get as big as maybe recreating a logo or anything like that. I think what the city is pointing toward in the original feedback we've gotten from the 600 plus surveys we've gotten from the community is said, let's keep it as simple as possible. So it's going to be underneath the city of Grand Junction's brand identity. We'll probably have a simple name to be determined, but it will probably be the Community Recreation Center, the Community Rec Center, something along those lines. But everything else that comes with that, whether it be the newsletters that go out from the city's communications team, or everything to the t-shirts and water bottles that might be sold at the recreation center, they need to have that cohesion so that everybody understands that it falls under the umbrella of the Community Recreation Center. So we talk about the visual elements that a brand like Nike, it's not necessarily the swoosh or the logo, but it's about that inspiration, trying to get you hyped up and off your couch and that type of thing for Nike. What we're looking for from you tonight, and the exercises we'll do in the back of the room, are to try to get some of that information out of you. Do you want this to be very, very community-based and have that look and feel? Do you want it to be more active in nature? Those types of things. And that's what we're looking for from feedback from you in this meeting tonight. What we are working toward is the initial phase with discovery and research, and that includes things like looking at the existing brand logo of the city and figuring out what's going to work well with that, but also looking at best practices from other recreation centers and figuring out where do they thrive, what can we glean from other communities that have had successful recreation centers that become self-sustaining through that revenue generation as it relates to communications and marketing. Then we get into the design concepting, and again, this might be more simple of a process than coming up with something brand new. It might just be, how does the recreation center fit underneath the logo and the look and feel of what the city's doing? And then we figure out with Sarah and team what they most need from us as far as templates, newsletters, social media, backgrounds, things like that. We hand it off, and then they run off with it and manage the process of communications and marketing for the recreation center from there. One of the things that the city had stressed when they brought us on was this shouldn't be something that we do and we have to change in 6 months, or we do and we have to change in 3 years. We want it to be something that has some timelessness and evergreen nature that will continue on. So working on the visual identity based on the community's input, taking the community's input and creating a purpose statement, which we've kind of called the true north of, like, what is the purpose of this thing according to the community? Is it health related? Is it action oriented? Is it more community based and inclusive in nature, that type of thing? And then developing those strong components that reflect that visually, that reflect that from a message standpoint, to hand off to the communications team that hopefully will sustain and have that cohesion and consistency we're looking for. So that when people see communications, when people see the t-shirts, when people see the water bottles, they understand that, you know, this is coming from the Community Recreation Center in Grand Junction.
I'll swap you out.
Yeah.
All right. Again, I'm Maura O'Neill, and thank you all for spending some time with us this evening. Before we turn you loose on the activities and more conversation and questions in the back, we just wanted to go through our input process. Our community survey is a large piece of informing and collecting input from you as community members. So we've got about, actually, as of today, that was updated on Friday, we've got about 750 survey responses. So if you've taken the survey already, thank you. And if you haven't, please do. You can scan the code up here to get to the online one. It's also on Engage GJ, or we've got printed copies in the back if you prefer to write it out. So looking forward to and appreciate all the feedback that we've gotten so far to inform what we're looking for when we are developing the Community Recreation Center's personality and identity, just to ensure that we're creating a shared understanding of what this will be and continue to evolve into based on where community members are coalescing around ideas, words, visuals that will express what the rec center is going to be. So this gives you a sense, if you haven't taken the survey already, the kinds of questions we're asking. We've got about 10 questions, a mix of multiple choice. Some of them are open-ended. It takes about 3 or 5 minutes to complete if you haven't done so already, but really diving into what words, what images, how would it best be to visualize the community recreation center in the marketing materials, again, to ensure that it is something the community recognizes and takes pride in from the outset, and also continues to evolve as the community evolves over decades. So back to that timeless idea. And then each of the next slides will go through a little description of the activities that we've got on the boards in the back. So again, a combination of voting, multiple choice, and open-ended. Please write down your feedback and stick it on the boards for us. So the first one asks, what words best match your preference for describing the community recreation center? So this is a scale of, for example, youthful versus mature. Where on that spectrum or continuum do you prefer the personality of the rec center to land? So we'll ask you to vote with sticky dots for that one. The second one is an open-ended one, again going toward that longevity idea. In 30 years, what would you like the rec center to be known as? Services provided, how do you expect it to evolve over the decades? So that one, we'll just ask if you've got ideas, tell us, or write them on sticky notes and put them on there, and that's part of the data we will be collecting this evening. And then the third one is another just vote for one to see where, what statements resonate most. So within the vision statement for the Community Recreation Center, which was developed through the design process to make sure there was a true north that we were all going for, there are several different sentences within that statement. So we just want to see, of all those ideas of what the rec center will provide, which one resonates the most with the community. And then the last one is a series of open-ended questions, looking at the longevity again. What do you love most about Grand Junction? What do you look forward to doing at the Community Recreation Center? And then what are some things that you wish people knew about Grand Junction? So this really gets at what are those distinguishing factors that separate the Community Recreation Center from other pools in Grand Junction or other recreation centers in the Valley and in the area. So looking forward to receiving your feedback, and thank you again for your time. And one more plug to sign up for community tours.